Alright, so this movie is about a prequel to the original Eureka 7 series, but it's not a full-on only prequel. Actually, it kind of retells the story, and I had to say that the prequel content, the stuff that happened before the series began, which I actually thought was a PlayStation game, but I guess they adapted it into anime or just completely redid the story. Adrock Thurston created a super weapon, or at least it wasn't supposed to be a super weapon, but it became a super weapon. It's kind of unclear, but he realized that using music to control the scud corals and using music as a means to destroy them was actually going to have a huge impact on the world, and he had found himself in a state of, I'm going to kill millions of people, but I have to kill 100 more just to save those millions, and it's really not right. And he has Eureka with him, and in the series, when the series began, for Eureka 7, the anime at least, she seemed very detached emotionally. She seemed like she couldn't be open to anybody. But then in this, she seemed like she was very open and learning from Adrock Thurston. But, you know, she didn't quite understand. We got to see the Nirvash in a form that we've never seen before. I guess it's prototype form. And I don't think it was able to transform. If it was, I don't rightly recall. But as it went down, as everything was happening, we get to see younger versions of the Gecko State, and we see how everything impacted them. But also, Ray and Charles Beans were involved in the story, and then after the prequel stuff happens, after we get to see how the device called Woodstock ended in the result of the event that we heard so much about called the Summer of Love, we then get put into a state where Renton is aboard the Swan with Ray and Charles. Now, he says, well, before that, and we keep getting all these flashback, and the story keeps getting told from the past up to the present, but it keeps saying, but before that even happened, and it'll say days ago, and then even before that, days ago again. And it's kind of hard to follow because you keep seeing a past event, and then you get to see an event that happened even before that, and then it all winds up back to our present situation, and we forego everything that happens with Renton meeting Eureka. We forego seeing him join the Gecko State, and we forego seeing him with the Gecko State and leaving them and then joining up with Ray and Charles, even though we do see how that happens. It's a little jarring to follow the pace of the story just because of how they do it. But it makes Renton's growth in his relationship with the Beams a little more intimate. It makes it seem more like he was full-on adopted. In the anime, it seemed like he was only with them for maybe a few short days into weeks, but here it gives you the feel that he was with them for months, like a very long period of time, and they became very attached to him. And when they were revealing each other's secrets to each other, you know, the relationship comes at a standstill. But even still, it seems like the Beams really had a strong emotional attachment to Renton, which I feel in the original anime that didn't really, like, gain as much substance as it did in this movie. From there, though, we do get to see, you know, some of the high-flying stunts. We do get to see what you would expect of Eureka 7, of its look, its feel, its music. But I had to say, the whole way they told the story, the whole way that they went about doing it, maybe the way they went about doing it is what created the impact, but it seemed like it was more focused on Renton's development, even though it felt like Eureka was the focal point for the cover, because on the DVD screen it had Eureka standing there with a very blunt, like a very blank face on it, and it looked like she did when she was pulled out of the cocoon where she was all pink and they were waiting for Eureka to revive, but she would only revive when Renton spoke to her, and they had to cut a lot of like excess skin and stuff off of her, if you remember those portions of the story. In fact, that's where it leads off when Renton goes back to the Gecko State. He meets up with Eureka, and she's laying in the hospital bed. And I get that they broke this up into 3 parts, and I get that they're going to give us more content than we saw originally. You know, I really liked the series. I thought it was good. I liked the whole boy meets girl aspect of it, and I did, you know, enjoy the high-flying battles and everything, but there was a lot of backstory there that it felt like well, where do these scub corals come from? What are they? They explain that loosely. You know, they don't fully explain it, but they don't explain, like, the ending didn't 100% make sense. And it just felt like until Renton and Eureka were able to admit their feelings for each other could they achieve what they achieved for the world. But even then, you didn't understand what they achieved because you were led to believe that this was a world without water and the trap power waves took the place of the water, but obviously they can't drain trap power waves. But no, we get to see that this Woodstock Summer of Love event that happened prior to the beginning of the original anime actually destroys and decimates half of the world. And it seemed like most of the water was destroyed, and it seems like half the world was still okay, and it's still like a green planet, but we never see that in the anime. We only know that there's rocks and desolation. So, you know, I don't know if they're retconning, saying that this was something to terraform the planet, or if they're retconning, saying, like, the planet was barren to begin with, and the scub corals that they discovered there, because it was heavily alluded in the original Eureka 7 that they weren't on the planet Earth. But now, this makes it seem like they were. It's really hard to say. And the technology that you see in this prequel, like in the prequel content, is so much more advanced than what you would believe. Like, it seemed like advanced technology in the original series was like there, and it was a present thing, but you just didn't know how far and deep it went. And this one, in this series, they show you. But overall, it wasn't too bad. I like that everything it felt like everything was reanimated, but this series has aged pretty well if you watch it on Blu-ray or DVD from back when it was new in the 2000s. So it's not like it's a horrendously old show that they redid. However, I will say on a final note, I watched the English version, and I really hated the voice for Renton. Everyone else, it seemed like they had them reprise their roles, but Renton had a different voice actor, and I didn't like it. He sounded too confident, too strong, and too sure of himself. And one of the key things for Renton is that he was weak in the beginning. He was this downtrodden boy. He wanted to achieve his dreams that he could not achieve. And it took a certain incident, meeting a certain girl, to achieve those dreams, to make him wake up. And, you know, just taking away the whole sad twerpiness of his voice kind of ruined it for me, because he just sounded like an ordinary guy. And he really just seemed, you know, too confident in his words. Even when he's dealing with a drawback or a defeat or talking about a depressing moment, you know, it's not as much as, like, you can feel bad for this wimp and identify with him at all, because he sounds, like, tough. He sounds like he can handle it. He sounds stronger. And Renton is supposed to be a wimp that becomes a little bit stronger as the series goes on, even though, you know, he's still a little annoying because he's Renton. But let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a like. Do subscribe and check out my other videos in the right-hand column.